I want you to receive this in the stillness within your own heart. For there are truths that can only be discerned when your soul is no longer swept away by the noise of the world. There are moments along your journey when I do not come with thunder or overwhelming displays of power, but I reach you like the first light of dawn, so gentle that if you are not watchful, you might dismiss it as nothing more than a passing sensation. Yet it is precisely within that gentleness that I am preserving you from dangers you have not yet perceived. I have placed within you the signals of the Holy Spirit, subtle stirrings in your conscience. At times, an uneasiness without clear explanation. At times, a pause that compels you to stop in the middle of choices that seem entirely reasonable. This is not condemnation, nor is it abandonment. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Psalm 27:1. And that light does not merely illuminate the path ahead. It also exposes the places where you are about to step into harm. You may have often assumed that these inner promptings were merely your imagination, that such restlessness was a form of weakness. But I tell you, my sheep hear my voice. John 10:27. My voice never comes to destroy you. It always leads you back toward life. And at times, mourning itself is the deepest expression of love. For no one who truly loves remains silent when they see the one they cherish drawing near the edge. There are moments when you choose the shorter path, the easier one, the road with less resistance, yet it quietly leads you further away from me without your awareness. I do not stand there casting anger upon you. Instead, I place light beneath your feet. As it is written, the Lord disciplines those he loves. As a father corrects the son in whom he delights. Proverbs 3:12. That light may make you uncomfortable, for it reveals what you would rather ignore. But if you turn away from it, you will step into the very darkness I have been trying to keep you from. I remember Jonah, who was sent to deliver a warning to Nineveh, yet he fled. Believing he could distance himself from the calling, he boarded a ship and set out in the opposite direction, thinking his silence could dissolve the command. But I did not abandon him in that misdirection. A storm arose upon the sea, not to destroy him, but to prevent him from going further down the wrong path. He was cast into the waters, and a great fish swallowed him. This was not blind punishment, but a restraining embrace in the midst of desperation, keeping him from sinking any deeper in the darkness within the belly of the fish. Jonah came to his senses, and from what seemed like an ending, it became a turning point. Salvation belongs to the Lord. Jonah 2:9. And even when a person runs, my love follows until they return. Do you see I did not let Jonah be lost? I held him, even through a way he did not expect, in order to preserve the mission within him. Do you see, even in the midst of turmoil, the first thing I do is not to judge, but to save. For true love does not wait for perfection before it acts. Perhaps you are in a season where you sense many inner promptings, yet you do not fully understand them. You may think you are being restricted. But in truth, I am guarding your steps from unseen pitfalls. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. Psalm 32:8. But you must be willing to pause in order to listen. I do not want you to walk in fear, but neither do I want you to walk in unawareness. For unawareness can lead you further than you could ever imagine. And when you turn back to look, I do not want you to see a path of ruin, but a journey where I was always there, holding you back at the right moment. If today you feel a certain stirring within your heart, do not dismiss it too quickly. Remain long enough to listen more clearly. For it may be within that very stillness that I am preventing a storm, not yet formed, keeping you from a choice you would not wish to step into. My child, have never left you. Even when you thought you were walking alone, every warning, Every sacred unease is a sign that I am very near. I do not speak to instill fear in you, but that you may live. And if you are willing to pause, you will realize that my hand has never left you, not even for a single moment. I want you to understand this, not as a rebuke, but as an awakening spoken from the deepest place of an unfailing love. There are times when you think you still have plenty of time, yet in reality you are standing very close to the boundary of things that cannot be undone. Delay never comes to you with weapons or loud noises. It wraps itself in softness, gentle quiet, almost like a lullaby. It whispers to you, "Later will do. Not now. There is still time." Yet within that there is still time. The most important doors of your life are quietly closing, and you do not hear the sound. Do you recognize it? Even in your daily life, I have shown small signs within you. An unexplainable restlessness, a night of incomplete sleep, a familiar joy that suddenly feels dim, a deep inner sense that something must change. A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. Proverbs 16:9. What you think is random is in truth the markers I have placed along your path, not to frighten you, but to keep you from going astray. But if you continue in haste and constant busyness, in postponing what I am gently reminding you within your heart, then you are the one pushing yourself further away from what matters most. It is not that I have left you. Rather, you are running without watching the path. And I, in the love of a father, still walk beside you, still speak, still place small signs before you, so that you may pause. I recall the parable of the 10 virgins that I spoke in the scriptures. 5 were wise and brought oil for their lamps, while 5 were foolish and made no preparation. When the bridegroom came unexpectedly, the wise entered the wedding feast, but the others were left outside in the lateness of their own delay. And I said, "Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour." Matthew 25:13. This is not a word meant to instill fear, but an invitation to wakefulness. For there are moments in life that cannot be repeated, and opportunities that once missed will not return in the same way again. My beloved, I have not set traps along your path. The enemy of your soul is the one who sows distraction and delay, persuading you that everything can be put off until later. But I am different. I place light upon each of your steps, not a light that blinds you, but one that is sufficient for you to see clearly where you are going. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Psalm 119:105. That light does not force you. It invites you to walk in awareness. I do not depart from you even when you no longer perceive my presence clearly. There are times when you think I am silent, yet I am speaking in ways you have not yet learned to hear. That silence is not absence. It is a space for you to recognize that I am still there, nearer than your very breath. But if you fill your life with the noise of delay, of busyness, of what is unnecessary, you will no longer hear that whisper. I want you to remember Peter when he walked upon the water. As long as his eyes were fixed on me, he was able to walk upon what was impossible. But when he looked at the wind and the waves, he began to sink. In that very moment, I did not stand at a distance. I reached out my hand immediately. Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt Matthew 14:31? Not to condemn, but to draw him back into life. Do you see, even when you waver because of delay, I am never absent from your life. Perhaps you think you are waiting for the right moment. But I tell you this, the moment does not simply arrive. It is stepped into today. If you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. Hebrews 3:15. For today is where life is unfolding. Tomorrow promises nothing, and delay, if prolonged, long enough, will turn what is alive into memories filled with regret. I am calling you not to take away your freedom, but to lead you into a fuller life. I remind you, not because you are weak, but because you are precious. A true father does not remain silent when his child is approaching danger. Neither do I. Every prompting within your heart is not pressure, but a gentle hand drawing you back so that you do not step into what would later bring regret. Listen to me today, not with fear, but with the awareness that true love never allows you to drift away in silence. And if you pause even for a moment, you will see that I have never left you. And every one of my reminders carries the form of a love that is keeping you from what you cannot yet save yourself from. If today your heart stirs as you encounter these words, do not quickly dismiss it as a fleeting emotion. I am knocking at the door of your heart, not with thunder, not with force, but with the patience of a love that does not withdraw. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him. Revelation 3:20. That knocking does not break in. Yet it is clear enough for a sleeping soul to awaken. I am not calling you back so that you would fear yourself, nor to bind you in guilt. I call you so that you may return to true life. For I know there are paths you have walked for so long in unawareness that you no longer recognize what is light and what has become a habit that quietly diminishes you. Yet if you pause for even a single moment, if you turn ever so slightly, you will find that I am already there, no farther than a single step away. Understand this. I do not require you to run quickly. I do not measure you by speed, but by direction. One step turning toward the light is more precious than 1,000 steps taken in darkness. Return to me and I will return to you. Malachi 3:7. And from the very moment you choose to turn, I will walk with you, not leaving you to find your way alone, but ensuring that every step you take is upheld by my presence. As my light begins to shine more clearly in your life, you will start to see what was once hidden. Not because I wish to make you afraid, but because light is truthful by nature. It reveals in order to heal. You will begin to realize that not everything familiar brings life. There are patterns repeated each day that seem harmless, yet quietly wear down your inner strength. A small habit, a seemingly insignificant choice, a way of spending time in aimlessness, a recurring loop of negative thoughts, a delay stretched out over time. All of these are not loud, yet they are persistent, like water dripping upon stone. And one day, you will find yourself exhausted, not even knowing where it all began. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise. Ephesians 5:15. The wisdom I give you is not for you to control everything by your own strength, but for you to discern what is nourishing you and what is draining you. I do not come to point a finger in condemnation at your habits, but to walk with you as you untangle what has become unconscious within you. In the same way, you may be living a life that appears full, yet is lacking true life. You may be doing many things, while your soul is quietly drying up without your awareness. And I am gently drawing you back to what is essential, my presence, within every rhythm of your life. There are habits that are not overtly wrong, yet they gradually pull you away from the stillness needed to hear my voice. There are distractions that are not immediately dangerous, yet they dull the sensitivity of your soul. And when the soul is no longer sensitive, it becomes difficult to distinguish between the voice that guides and the voices that pull you away. But I don't leave you alone in this process of awakening. On the contrary, the very light increasing within you is a sign that I am restoring your ability to discern. Light shines on the righteous. Psalm 97:11. That light is not only to show you the path, but also to help you see yourself more clearly. You may feel a measure of discomfort as you begin to recognize these things. This is natural, for light always reveals the familiar places you once leaned upon. But do not be afraid. I do not allow you to see so that you may be wounded, but so that you may be set free. I want you to receive these words not as condemnation, but as truth spoken from an unchanging love. For I know there have been moments when you chose what felt easier simply to avoid the tension of change. One step back to find temporary ease. One silence to avoid confrontation. One quiet assurance to yourself that it can wait. And those small moments do not remain isolated. They quietly join together into a current, carrying you further than you ever intended to go. There is no beginning so large that you immediately recognize its consequences. But let me give you an image so you may understand. A drop of poison falling each day may not alarm you, yet it patiently seeps through the soil through every root until an entire forest grows weak without anyone knowing when it began. See to it that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. Hebrews 12:15. The danger does not lie in the first moment, but in becoming accustomed to it. I see clearly how people rename the very things that are leading them away from life. You call it personality habit. Everyone does it, or just a little. But truth does not change simply because you change its name. And I don't say this to weigh you down, but to set you free. For no one can be healed if they no longer dare to call by its true name what is binding them. My beloved, every action you choose carries a depth beyond its surface. A word that seems harmless may sow coldness. A glance that appears fleeting may carry quiet contempt. A night spent in aimlessness instead of remaining with me in stillness. A way of eating to escape your emotions rather than facing them. These are not merely behaviors. They are subtle directions in which you are handing control over to your emotions instead of to me. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Matthew 6:21. And where you place your treasure will determine what is guiding you. When you repeat small choices without awareness, they begin to carve pathways within your soul. And those pathways do not require loud moments to form. They only require repetition sustained in silence. I have given you your body not as a burden, but as a finely tuned instrument for living fully upon this earth. Every heartbeat, every breath, every limitation of your body carries the wisdom of the Creator. When you misuse it, when you ignore the signals of fatigue, when you push it beyond its limits in unawareness, you are in effect diminishing the gift I have entrusted to you. Yet I don't say this to bind you in guilt, but so that you may relearn how to honor the life I have placed within you. So it is with your soul. It was not created to carry bitterness, envy, delay, or indulgence. It was created to reflect my life. But when you allow these things to accumulate day after day, you place upon it burdens that do not belong to it. And then you will find yourself weary without understanding why, depleted without knowing the cause. Disobedience, my child, rarely appears in grand forms. It begins in the smallest things you overlook. A moment when you know what is right, but do not act. A moment when you hear my prompting within, but choose to delay. A moment when you see the light clearly, but turn away because it requires change. And those moments, if left unrecognized, will quietly weaken the sensitivity of your soul. Today, if you hear His voice, do not harden your hearts. Hebrews 3:15. A hardened heart does not form in a single day. It is shaped through the repeated act of ignoring my gentle call. And when this continues, you will find yourself gradually losing the courage you once had. The courage that enabled you to stand firm in trials, that empowered you to choose what is right even when it was difficult. But I do not stand by in silence as you drift away. I speak from the very first missteps, not to frighten you, but to prevent you from going further than you can return on your own. For I see not only your present, but also where you are headed if you continue along that path. Do you remember Peter, when he walked upon the water? He did what no one thought possible only because his gaze was fixed on me. But when he began to focus on the wind and the waves, he started to sink. And immediately I reached out my hand, not allowing him to sink deeper, not letting him be lost beneath the waters, but holding him at the right moment. Matthew 14:30-31. This is how I always act. I intervene early so that you are not carried too far away. I do not wait until you are broken to call you back. I call you the moment you begin to slip away from true life. For I love you not only at the destination, but in every step you are taking. And if today you are able to hear this, it is not by chance. It is a sign that I am still preserving you, still drawing you back into awareness, into the light, and into the path you were created to walk. I do not call you into a life merely to avoid what is wrong, nor do I lead you only so that you may remain safe in the limited way the world understands. I call you into fullness of life, where your soul is awakened, where your mind is no longer clouded, and where each day is no longer a cycle of mere existence, but a living stream of light and wisdom. I have come that they may have life, and have it abundantly. John 10:10. This is not a distant promise, but a reality I desire for you to step into with every breath. But you must understand, this life does not come automatically. It is formed through discipline, infused with love. Not the discipline of pressure or fear, but the discipline of one who understands that every small choice is either building or dismantling their own future. When you dare to say no to what is momentarily comfortable, you are saying yes to something greater that you cannot yet see. When you refuse a compromising habit today, you are opening a door of freedom for tomorrow. For God hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of self-control. 2 Timothy 1:7. That self-control is not a burden, but the mark of a soul being restored into the order of life. I want you to learn to treat your body as a temple, not as a tool for momentary indulgence. I have placed life within every breath you take, not for you to exhaust it unconsciously, but for you to live with deep reverence for that gift. When you listen to your body, when you know how to pause before excess, when you choose to nourish rather than to misuse, you are entering into a form of worship that is quiet, yet deeper than words. In the same way, time is not something that simply passes for you to consume. It is a sacred river I have entrusted into your hands to steward. Every moment you use is shaping your soul. And when you choose words that heal instead of words that wound, when you choose forgiveness instead of holding on to the weight of resentment, you are stepping into the true nature of the love I placed within you from the beginning. These things may seem small, yet they are the very foundation of a life built in the light. No great faithfulness is ever formed apart from small choices repeated quietly over time. I know there will be moments when you feel weary in this journey. There will be times when you feel you lack the strength to remain disciplined, the steadiness to stand firm, the clarity to continue. You may fall. You may feel like letting go. You may even question whether any of your effort truly matters. But it is precisely in those moments that I do not withdraw from you. On the contrary, I draw nearer. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not snuff out. Isaiah 42:3. I do not love you because you are perfect. I love you because you belong to me, even in your weakest moments. Yet neither will I allow you to remain in a life of compromise. For you were not created merely to pass through your days, but to reflect the glory of my life in this world. And so, even when you are tired, I gently draw you back to the path of awareness, not by pressure, but by the steadfastness of a love that never lets go. Let me take your hand in this journey, not in haste, not with force, but step by step, leading you out of the haze of habit into the light of truth. For there are familiar things that, if left unexamined, can become gilded chains, beautiful on the outside, yet binding within. Many times I have placed signs in your life before danger draws near, like the sky changing color before a storm, like the stillness of the wind before the tempest rises, like a quiet unease in your heart before you begin to drift. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. Matthew 24:42. Watchfulness is not a life of fear, but a life lived with eyes open to my leading. I do not act only after everything has fallen apart. I intervene when you have just begun to stray, not because you are weak, but because you are precious, not because you are lacking, but because you carry a value you have not yet fully seen. And this world constantly seeks to trade your soul for temporary comfort, for choices that appear harmless. But I will not remain silent as you slowly drift from the light. I will not turn away when you begin to lose your way. I will speak. I will place pauses along your path. I will interrupt the things that are pulling you away from true life, not to cause you pain, but to rescue you from a loss far greater than anything you can imagine. And if you are able to hear me today, it is not by chance. It is a reminder that I am still here, going before you, walking beside you, and holding you back even before you realize that you are being carefully preserved with every step. I want you to pause for a few breaths and receive this not with your ears, but with your soul. Do not mistake my silence for absence, nor interpret the firmness of love as abandonment. There are times when I do not speak much, yet that does not mean I am not acting. There are times when I do not indulge what feels comfortable to you, yet that does not mean I have drawn away. On the contrary, it is often when you think you have been left alone that I am intervening most deeply in the direction of your life. For the Lord disciplines the one he loves, as a father disciplines the son he delights in. Proverbs 3:12. That discipline is not punishment, but a restraining hand that holds you back before you fall into something whose consequences you do not yet fully understand. My child, there are forms of mercy that do not appear gentle on the surface. It may feel like a sudden pull when you are about to step into danger. It may come as a voice that startles you while you are rushing towards something that seems right. It may appear as an inner disruption, as the loss of a false stability you once depended on. Yet all of it carries the same meaning. I am holding you back. I do not stand still while you move toward choices that could break you from within. I do not allow you to enter doors that seem like opportunities, but actually lead to a deeper emptiness than you can imagine. There are times when I slow down your plans. Times when I close paths you believed were opening wide. Times when I remove something you thought indispensable. But you do not yet see the whole picture. For I know the plans I have for you. Jeremiah 29:11. Those plans are not limited by your immediate desires, but are woven from eternal wisdom, where there is no error, no deficiency. There are things that if you were to receive them too early, would become burdens instead of blessings. There are doors that if opened at the wrong time, would not lead you to fulfillment, but to a subtle emptiness. And I, seeing the road ahead in its entirety, must at times restrain you precisely at the point where you believe you are most right. I know you may call this adversity. You may think you are being delayed, obstructed, deprived of what you deserve. But I tell you, nothing in my hands is ever a true loss to you. There is only an exchange for something better, deeper, more real that you have not yet received. My child, even in this very moment, I am still reaching out to you with the same gentle light that has been guiding you all along. What may feel like delay or closed doors is often my exchange for something far better and more lasting than you can yet see. I am not withholding from you. I am protecting you and positioning you for the fullness I have prepared. If these words have stirred something deep within your heart, do not let them pass by quickly. Pause for a moment and let my light continue its quiet work of revealing and healing. If this message has touched you, I invite you to type Amen in the comments below as your simple yes to my invitation to listen more closely and turn toward the light. Press like if you feel encouraged to slow down and trust that my hand has been preserving you from dangers you have not yet seen. And if you know someone who is rushing through their days or quietly drifting, share this video with them in love. Your share may be the very prompting I use to awaken their heart and keep them from a path they would later regret. I have never left you, not even for a single moment. Every time you choose to pause and listen, you are stepping back into the life I created you to live. Will you respond to me today?